Hello, how you doing today?
Doing great.
Good? Are we excited about this? Wait a minute, y'all can do better than that. Are we excited about this?
Yeah, yay.
How you doing? I'm Ori Hicks. I'm a member of Ben Philadelphia's ERG team, and we like to welcome an outstanding panel today. You're going to hear a lot of great stories. You're going to hear a great conversation. We have Barrett Brooks, we have Mr. Ron Davis, we have Jason Avant and Mr. Tony McGee, and I'm going to toss it to one of the best hosts, Philly Live, the one and only Aunyea Lachelle. Here you go, Aunyea, take it over.
Yay.
Thank you. Got to give it up to the one and only Ori Hooks and all of our Ben Philly members for putting this together. Thank you all so much for being here. Y'all feeling good? I know you're eating good. Don't fall asleep on us now. Just thank you again for having us. And thank you so much to this incredible panel for being here. So this is the story of the life off the field, the success and struggles of Black former pro athletes. And the purpose of this panel is to really dive into your stories and the impact of from going pro to now being a Black man in America and what that means to you, what that means to your family, how that's affected you. And then, of course, any advice that you can share and any insight that you can give into what your life looks like for someone who may not be able to relate. So thank you for being vulnerable and honest with the stories that you're going to share with us. I'm first going to have each of the panelists introduce themselves to us, give us a little bit of background into your NFL careers, and then what you do now post NFL. So Barrett, we can start with you.
My name is Barrett Brooks. Got drafted back in 1995 to the Philadelphia Eagles, played 12 years. Ended my career in 2007. Won a Super Bowl in 2006. And once I finished playing, I kind of set things in place earlier on in my career where I knew that, I couldn't play football forever because, the NFL means not for long. So I tried to think of something that I could really invest in, whether real estate or anything like that. And I was like, you know what? Let me invest in my wife. I told her, look, I can't play forever. So since I can't play forever, I'm gonna need you to get a job. So, when I'm done, I have a sugar mama, so that's what so I invested in her. I played 12 years. She went 12 years to school. We opened up, nursing school, did nursing agencies. And once COVID hit, we closed down the nursing school, but now we do, send help out to individuals. It's one thing that healthcare is. It's inflation proof. There's always going to be sick people. There's always going to be old people. And, that's what we do. We send out nurses and texts to them. And, that's how I make my money now. I do work for NBC. I do make a little bit of money. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, I work for NBC. I'm a host of Eagles pre and post game show. And I also do Birds Huddle. So that's what I do now.
Davis.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Ben and the work that you're doing here to really bring people together at NBC Universal. But Parks, let's hear it for Parks Casino. Yeah. I'm very passionate, as my team knows, and we have team members here, Carrie, Mike, and Michelle, who are supporting this effort, and I want to recognize them for being outstanding care warriors. And that's the first thing that I learned as a youngster, to care. It all started for me with actually my uncle, who was killed in prison, in the Trenton State Prison, when I was 2 years old, or actually 1 year old, and I had been named yet. And my mother, in her wisdom, named my middle name Willard after him. So since that day that I became Willard, I have found obstacles, I found challenges, but also found opportunities. The opportunities, I was in high school, fast, co-captain of a football team in 1968. Yes, somewhere. Oh, you're so
playing
so
with
sweet.
Moses back
Oh
then.
man. Hey, look. Yeah, that's right. Where your helmets broke and you wore cheap pads and all the other things. But I was then an HBCU graduate, Virginia State. Let's hear Virginia State. Come on, online and everywhere else. And I was All-American there, and I was drafted as a different draft, guys. And audience, it was a different draft in that they had to find me off campus. I was drafted in the 16th round. They had 22 rounds. I was drafted in the 16th round, and they called my parents and let them know that I was drafted. So they found me, and I took my first plane ride to San Francisco. I was 19 years old taking that first plane ride. Played for San Francisco on and off for a year, and was traded to the Cardinals. And my friend here, Barrett, was in St. Louis during that time. We used to call it St. Louis Misery, not Missouri. There's so many images of that. But I came, and I have an old picture, a black and white picture. In those days, in the 70s, the NFL was black and white, but literally and figuratively. There were two teams usually. Dallas Cowboys had two teams, and they were racially segregated in the locker room. They played together on the field, but there was two separate teams. With Don Coryell, who was my coach, we had people like Mel Gray, if anybody knows that name. We had some outstanding players, but the NFL was completely different. My first contract was signed for $15,000 a year. I thought I was rich. $15,000 a year, yeah, and a $1,000 signing bonus. And so I played for 4 years, and luckily, the blessing I had, my parents instilled me with education. I got a undergraduate degree and then a master's degree, and I worked on a doctorate degree during that time. And moving fast forward, I've been blessed to be part of some effective teams. Now, with the Cardinals, I learned how to lose. So that wasn't an effective team. But the team I'm with now, Parks Casino, is a great team. I've been with them for almost 20 years now. And what we do, and you have this great BRGs or ERGs that express the passion of Comcast through the lens of the various groups. And we do have that kind of passion also, where we have people of color, women's leadership. We have all kinds of other categories that fit and help us do what we do. And I'm fortunate, I give away, one of the things that I do along with Lachelle, I give away a lot of parks money to various organizations. So last 2 years, $31 million. And since I've been there, almost $400 million. So, but I'm passionate, and we serve on boards, and I'll talk more about that. I'm also a trustee at Mother Bethel, AME, if you know about that, the oldest black church in America. So we are part of a caring community, and I'll talk more about that in a minute.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my name is Jason Avant. I was fortunate enough to go to the University of Michigan from South Side of Chicago, and got drafted here to Philadelphia in 2006. I played until 2016 with the Kansas City Chiefs. I retired. About my 7th year in the league, I started to shadow in amusement places, Sky Zones, Dave & Buster's, different things like that. It was a University of Michigan grad, Ty Law, that I was in contact with, that opened up a company called Launch Trampoline Park, and I chose to go with him in his franchise model. Had 3 stores, now I'm down to 1. But I've been doing that since I actually stopped playing. I actually turned down offers to continue to play in the National Football League to run my own business, and I've been doing that now for 8 years. I also do television. I'm on Birds Huddle throughout the season with Barrett. Me and him are on the show together. I'm on his show. And I also do sideline reporting for the University of Michigan football team, and I will get a national championship ring, which is awesome. So there's a lot of things that, yeah. I've been fortunate to do a lot of great things and have a successful career, and there's a lot of people that's responsible for that. So that's my background.
Thank you. And then Tony McGee on teams. Tell us about your NFL career and then what you're doing now.
Well, first of all, thanks again, Ben, for having me. Looking forward to just hearing the stories and engaging with the whole Ben Network and the Comcast team. Like Jason, I went to the University of Michigan, graduated in 1993. From there, I got drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. Had the opportunity to spend 9 years there. Then I spent another 2 years between the Dallas Cowboys and finished up with the New York Football Giants. And after that, I had the opportunity, like most athletes, either you have a lot of things going on or you have nothing going on. And unfortunately for me, I had too many things going on. And when you get into that cycle, you find yourself, where you don't really focus on that one particular thing. After about 4 or 5 years, having a sports club, having a restaurant, a lounge, a sports complex, after really taking a step back and evaluating, I started H&M Global Logistics back in 2011, and we've been doing that for the last 13 years. And we do importing, exporting, warehousing, custom brokerage, distribution. We have a 50,000 square foot warehouse here in Orlando. We have a sister warehouse in Los Angeles, California. We work with a lot of the theme parks here in Orlando, and that's what we do. So we service our customers, and we really try to make every customer feel like they're our only customer. More importantly than that, I'm particularly interested in really having a discussion around what we can do as former athletes to really make an impact in the business community, simultaneously make an impact with young and up-and-coming athletes that transition, but more importantly, Black men or African Americans or men of color as they make the transition and they try to find their way through the ranks and develop their businesses and take it to the next level.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's inspiring already just to hear your NFL journeys and how you were able to go from being professional football players to industry professionals now in your own right. As we dive into that story, I first want to start with when you all got into the NFL. I assume at that time that was your life's biggest goal. How did your life instantly change once you went pro? I mean, you had national spotlight, attention. I'm sure it probably changed your home life. What were some of the biggest changes that you've noticed that have impacted your life, maybe even today? Yeah, we can start with you, Barrett.
I guess it would be from eating oodles and noodles and hamburger helper with no hamburger in it to being able to afford steaks and filet mignon, and doing stuff like that. I think that the biggest thing is it wasn't my dream to go to the NFL. I know most kids say, "Oh, I'm going to the NFL." And I wasn't that guy. I was cool with just working where everybody in my family worked at, and that's the post office. I just thought I was going to be another post office worker. But I fell in love with basketball, wanted to play basketball, and there wasn't a lot of 6'3" centers in the league so I was great at football, but just good. I only played football because my mom made me play. She made me play. She said, "Look, you're going to go play football or you're just going to come straight home." And I couldn't sit in the house. So I was like, you know what, I'll play football. And I was good at it. I didn't play till I was a freshman in high school. But didn't even know anything about football. They said, "Hey, go get the ball." I'd go get it. I spent 1 week playing freshman football, was instantly brought up to the varsity, played varsity, All-American, all Metro, all that stuff. But I just didn't like football because football was hard. I didn't like it because of that. But I was good at it. So long story long, I took a scholarship to Kansas State. And at the time, Kansas State wasn't cool. I went there when it wasn't cool. They were ranked 106 out of 110 Division I schools. They hadn't won a game in 5 years, but they were going to let me play basketball while I played football. They were the only school that could do it. I had a scholarship to go to USC, Miami, Oklahoma, Nebraska. I could have went anywhere in the country, but they were going to let me play basketball. So that's why I went to Kansas State. Played there. I didn't love football until I got drafted. I got that first check. I got the first check. I'm like, wow, so my first check, I remember my first check was a signing bonus for $425,000. I signed a 4-year deal worth $1.3 million. I too thought I was rich then. But, talking about ignorance, I got my first check and I look at it, I'm like, wow, I'm about to get a check for $425,000. And I looked at the check and it said $273,000. So I literally looked on the back of it, see there was some more zeros on the back of it. I'm like, this can't be right. That's when I learned who FICA was and everything else. I didn't know anything about that. So I never worked a job either, So, it was after that I grew to love football and really, dive into it and become, the athlete I was. So I got drafted in the second round by the Philadelphia Eagles back in 1995. So that's how I started football. Yeah.
Well, for me, there was no anticipation of football at all. The first game that I saw in person in high school, I played in. The first game I saw in college in person, I played in. And the first pro game that I saw in person, I played in. And there was always a next step for me. What is the next step? And the contrast from eras, my era was in the 70s. I mean, I had a $15,000 signing check or not signing check, but salary, and a $1,000 signing bonus. That was big money. That was big money back then because I did not know any difference. I thought it was like, well, I get this degree and I go in the NFL. Big deal. So I was blessed by motivation. My mother in high school, and this is one of the things you remember, I was a captain of a football team. And there was a big game with over across the way. I was in New Jersey with Gateway, and they were a new team or whatever. A kid was running, and his foot got caught in my helmet. I was wearing a double bar face mask, and ripped me back. And you have 3,000 people over here, 3,000 over there. And it's the first game my mother saw me play. So I'm waking up and out of my daze, and my mother had jumped the fence and came in to see her baby had gone down. That was her first time seeing me play. And I had to tell her to get off the field because I was so embarrassed. But she did the fireman's carry to the bench. So I had to live that down. So I had to prove that I was a football player. Well, the next year I made all conference or whatever, and then the rest is history. But football was not my goal. It was taking advantage of an opportunity that was given to me, and that I realized in the present that was an opportunity I needed to take advantage of, much like anyone else in their careers. You take advantage of that opportunity. So I played for Don Coryell, and we were talking about the days of the head slap. Deacon Jones, if you remember those names and all that. Back in those days, I played against O.J. Simpson. I played against some of the big names that you probably know from yesteryear or look at some of the film, but it was not my primary goal.
I'll say this is that I was always a competitor, and my goal wasn't to play in the National Football League, but my goal was to become a basketball player. I didn't play football until I was a sophomore in high school. The only reason I played was my basketball coach told me that I couldn't play basketball unless I played football because he was tired of 400 kids showing up for basketball in Chicago because of Michael Jordan and nobody showing up for the football team. Whoever showed up for football was on the team. That's how it was. And but he told me when I was a sophomore, after he saw me play for the first time, he said, if you give me the rest of your time, every waking moment besides school, you won't have to work another day in your life. And I believed him. And so I will put in the work for it. So Southside Chicago, family history is riddled with gangs and drugs and violence. A lot of people that I know, a lot of family members, prison. Dad was in prison at the time. He was one of the main factors that told me to continue to go and play football because he didn't want me to end up on the street. So putting in the work, getting up after practice, go home, do my homework, come back at 9, 10 o'clock when my coach would put his kids to bed and work there until 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, pretty much every day, after practice, because my grandmother would give me that permission to do that with the coach. I got good at it, really good at it. And so for me, the NFL was a dream come true because it just reminded me of all the things that I had to overcome. And I went to a school in the back of the Aunyea Garden Projects on the south side of Chicago where it was tough. We would have school raids where we show up and there was 65 police officers going in and out, drug paraphernalia on the ground, metal detectors every day. So me making it to the NFL was more about the climb over that made me so full of gratitude because there were so many things and so many negative mindsets. I've been told by my family member that I'll never be nothing. Like most of my family, like, you just doing this, whatever. I didn't have anybody showing up to my high school football game till they realized that I was an All-American, right? In my own family, nobody showed up when I was a sophomore and I played. Nobody. Crickets. Junior, nobody. Crickets. I went to University of Michigan football camp as a junior and like lit the camp up, and I became All-American. And before you know it, the papers were there. Then I had 30 people in the stands, but I still remembered that. I still remember the negative words. So making it to the National Football League to me was so powerful because of the climb. Yeah.
Confirmation. It sounds like that's what changed instantly. Was you got the confirmation that you believe in yourself, but now so many other people do too. And
yeah, it's definitely a part of that, and also too, it unfortunately because of some of the environments let's say my environment. I don't know everyone else's environment, but my environment. When they see, okay, you got drafted, the first thing is money. Now we're rich. It wasn't. we're rich. They don't know. Like, no, I got drafted in the 4th round. We're not rich at all. And so you have to learn those things. So there's a lot that comes with it that can bring you back down, even though you are successful.
Tony, how about you? Was going pro always the goal? And then what instantly changed about your life after you became pro?
Well, going pro I'm kind of like Barrett. I was a 6'4", 235-pound power forward. And I'm from Indiana, so it's all about basketball there. And had the opportunity to play football and basketball at the University of Indiana under Bob Knight, which probably wouldn't have been a good idea with his combustible way he coaches and my attitude. It would have been a tough haul on both of us. But needless to say, I did have a football coach that alerted me to the fact that I didn't have a very good jump shot, and all I did was power people down low. And a 6'4" guy that couldn't shoot from the outside really wasn't going to make it unless his name was Charles Barkley and he played for the Philadelphia 76ers. So with that said, I had the opportunity to go in and play at the University of Michigan like Jason. But what instantly changed for me is you went from not having money to having money. And that's probably the biggest change from an outside standpoint and from an inside standpoint as we look out. But more importantly than that, the biggest thing that I had to learn was to say no. Because, coming from a single parent household, and we government subsidized free lunch, subsidized housing and all the other things that go along with that. And you didn't have a lot of money. My attitude was I didn't really know what to do with it at the time, but I just didn't want to lose it. So I figured if I save and as I develop, I would start to learn how to manage money. That was one of the things that I did. But the most encouraging thing that I can tell athletes that make that transition is, first of all, don't do anything until you understand what to do. Put the money in the bank, spend as much time learning how to manage that money as you did to put yourself in position to make the money. I mean, we've been going since we were, in youth league, playing football, playing basketball, and all the other sports to develop these skill sets. And to what? You want to uplift yourself and your family. You want to make money. You want to make an impact in your community. You want to give back. But now we have to spend equal amounts of time learning how to manage that money, put it to good use, so it's not a one-shot deal and we live a good life, but there's nothing for our kids in the next generation. So that's my, that's my message to all of us is let's not forget that, because of some of the efforts that Ron makes with supplier diversity and different things like that, some of the things that came out of the movements in the 60s that allow us as African-American business owners to even have businesses, to get loans, to do these things, and we're allowing some of those things to be peeled back. So it's really our responsibility to first and foremost point this out. Secondly, make sure that this doesn't happen. Do whatever we can in our power to really make sure that all the different gains that we benefited from, is being paid forward to the next generation. And we don't just enjoy it, we make sure we get back. As Ron said, he gives a lot out. I'm to the point now where I said no early on, but once I got to the level where I established financial independence and knew that, myself and my daughter and my wife, we would all be taken care of. Now I'm very generous in terms of time and resources, whether it be money or different things like that, to give back and try to make a difference in the community. But again, you got to get there. before you can start giving it all back. And sometimes we get a little too generous at the onset before we've really established where we want to be and how we want to get there.
Just as a follow-up to your question and excellent comments, one of the things that happened to me transformatively was the day somebody asked me for an autograph. Because before that time, I was just whatever. One of the players, I remember the day I came off the field, and there was getting autographs. It was Jim Hart, and big names. You see that guy over there? Get his autograph. That was like, I remember the day that they did that. So what that gave me was a sense of belonging, and that's what I think we're all saying. And in Ben Network and Comcast and Parks, and we want a sense of belonging in something. And there's always a day that makes a difference to you and to me. So for me, football, and to answer your question, for me and thinking back, that was the day that I said, I belong in this, and I can do it, and I have confidence to do it.
And you all have similar stories of what changed for you when you got into the NFL money, right? You came from humble beginnings to instantly getting a much bigger paycheck than you were used to. Speaking of that transition, I want to talk now about at what point did you start to think about life off the field? And Tony, you hit this right on the head when you mentioned being smart with your money while you have it so that you can plan for your future. Did you feel like you did that successfully? Knowing Barrett, you said it, NFL means not for long. Do you feel like while you were in the NFL, you planned appropriately how to hold on to your funds for the day that you were no longer going to be playing?
I think more so with me, it started when like probably my sophomore year of football. My sophomore year, I came under this mantra that whatever I do, I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability. Whatever. Me talking to you right now, I'm doing it to the best of my ability. When I'm on Bird's Huddle, when I'm doing pre and post game show, I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability. Good, bad, or indifferent, that's what I'm gonna do. So when I was on the football field, even though I hated football and I didn't want to play football, I wouldn't half-ass do it because whatever I do it to the best of my ability. So I kept developing that, and I got better and better at football or whatever I did, got better in school. I was a better kid, I was a better son, I was a better, and I just kept bettering myself like that. So whatever I did to the best of my ability. So when I did make it to the NFL, I knew that I couldn't play forever because I see all the casualties, that fell before me. And in the league right now, I saw guys come in and sign, $30 million deals, but then a year after they finish playing, they don't have any more money left. I saw a rookie come in, and it's 2003 or 2002. A rookie comes in, he buys a brand new Escalade. A new model of the Escalade, a new version of the Escalade comes out 7 months later. He has his Escalade, hadn't even cracked the surface of paying for it, and ends up wanting to get another one. He doesn't have the same money that a veteran player does, but yet he wants to go out and get another Escalade because he has the old version of it. And to me, it was like a slave mentality. I didn't want to do that. So while I was in school and my wife was going to school and she's got, she's a nurse, went to nursing school 4 years, then got 2 MBAs, one in healthcare administration and finance, and the other one in nursing education. We opened up a nursing school, and I say, well, man, I can't play forever, but while I'm playing, let me go to school. And, just before I finished my career, I went in, I got a master's degree in nursing education, not nursing education, but healthcare systems and development. So I did that, so now I know what she's doing and how she's doing it, just so I can stay abreast of it. And I'm learning all this stuff as I'm going and still trying to play football. And I thought about it, man, what if I hadn't have done this? Because when I did retire, I could sit back and breathe. And a lot of players couldn't breathe because the same guy that just signed a contract 3 years ago for $31 million calls and asks me to borrow $5,000 to invest in this. I'm like, bro, didn't you just sign a $30 million contract? So I was always thinking, I just got to keep going. I got to keep going. I just got to keep, grind. I got to keep reinventing myself. I got to make sure. I did everything from selling the AstroTurf field. In fact, I sold the Giants and the Jets their field before they got into this new place. I sold them that field I mean, I did everything, and I finally, got an opportunity to do what I'm doing now. I didn't even want to do that. I didn't want to be in front of the TV. I wanted to produce. So I went to NFL field. I called Baldy, hey, Baldy, I want to come, I want to produce TV. So I became a producer at NFL Films. Behind the scenes, I was a content producer. I'm breaking down fields for Jaws and Sterling Sharp and Baldy. I came in as an intern. I'm giving Sterling Sharp coffee and Jaws coffee, and I'm going to Chick-fil-A and buying chicken for Baldy so he can sit down and watch film. I'm doing all this stuff because I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to better myself, trying to be the best version of myself I can be, and trying to develop into what I'm doing now. So it's always like I'm always trying to fight and get better and better and better. Like me and Jason all the time. We're going back and forth. Hey, man, what could I have done better? Hey, do I need to do this over again? No, you don't need to do it over again. Well, let's do this next time. So we're always trying to get better. We're always trying to develop a better version of ourselves. I mean, he's sitting right there. Hey, man, what could I have done? Same thing with me. I do college football on the weekends. I could be in Missouri on Saturday and do an Eagles pre and post game show on Sunday. Always trying to grind to make things happen. And I think that's the biggest thing about myself and the people I'm around. If I'm the best person in the room, the smartest person in the room, I got to get out of that room. I got to get into a room where I'm always lifting, always trying to climb, and that's just how that's how I conduct myself even to this day.
One of the experiences that I used to participate in, I was on the board of the NFLPA former players organization, and we always had a convention with the active players. You see, Drew Brees and all the other players there. So you see somebody active. And I remember Earl Campbell came in one day. He said something, or a person before Earl Campbell. Earl Campbell, they had to actually put him up, his son, and keep him on the stage for him to stand up. The person after him said something that one of those never forget. Because just as Jason and Barrett are aware, and your family can be in the NFL a challenge, and I would put it lightly, because you have made it, and so they have made it. And this agent said something I'll never forget. He said, picture yourself in an airplane, and the pilot is beginning to take off, and the airline stewardess or flight attendant says to you, goes through the instructions, before you try to help somebody else, put the mask on yourself. And that kind of wisdom is one that a lot of players, again, during the times that I was there, had a challenge with. Put them, and Barrett, you pointed it out very well. Put the mask on yourself. Or look yourself in the mirror. What do you need? What do you need to do to go to the next step? And that's the kind of wisdom that money, relationships, and all the other things, that thinking through those relationships and thinking through your life can have.
Yeah, when you're coming from a rough background, the idea that you see on television a lot of time becomes like reinforced, right? Because a person with money, they can do what they want. They can drive this car. They can get on a private plane. Everyone, even us in our own private times, we may work for Comcast or Parks or whatever else, but we got something on the side that we're trying, hey, how can I get out of this situation, or trying to better ourselves in some areas so we don't have to put in all that time and all that work. And when you make to the NFL, there's like this lie that's built up through what you've seen on TV that, oh, I made it, not realizing that this money that you have is just a deposit or it's upfront, right? So we're basically given the same money that a doctor would get, but a doctor gets it over a 40-year span. All right. So we just get it up front. Right. So if you don't have that mindset of, hey, this career can only last, the average NFL career is 3.5 years, and it can last for 3.5 years, or it can last, Barrett, the longest here, I believe 12 years. Right. So, and that's a pretty long career. So if it lasts 12 years, I still have another 50 years to live. And so when you break it down, it's really not that much. It equates to about $250,000 or $200,000 a year. Like if you play, for league minimum throughout that amount of time, So trying to explain that to family in that situation is the tough aspect of it, right? Because they have this idea that LeBron James put on his whole family, his whole crew, because LeBron James had a $90 million Nike contract before he ever played a game of basketball. They don't realize it's different money, it's a different subject, a different topic completely. So that struggle with money can be because you're battling against illusions. You're battling against like childhood dreams. So if anybody in here, I know we wag our head on TV, television, man, that player lost 25, he lost $100 million in this. Dude, if you had $20 million at age 21, you probably would go broke too. Right? Just think of the stuff that we were doing at the age of 20, 21. And this guy that's 19, 20, 21 has $20 million and with a bunch of hormones. It's tough in this world. Right? So yeah, exactly. So the thing I'll say about it is that having balance around you, the NFL does a great job of trying to prepare young men for the challenges of money, along with NFLPA, the trust. There's a bunch of programs to get the advice. It's all about, are you willing to? And the better your family environment, if your generation, the generation before you did well with money, came to a place of financial security, you're going to do better with money because they can see the pitfalls. But if you're the first one, it's going to be a lot harder for you.
Tony, how about you? Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Just to pick up on a couple of things that the gentleman said. First and foremost, I think like all of us has some hits and misses, but the key is to have bigger hits and smaller misses. But more importantly than that, let's talk about modeling. And when I say modeling, I mean, if we look at the models that are set before us right now, we see guys that have done it right. So if you go a generation before us, maybe Ron's generation, they didn't have the Michael Jordans, they didn't have the Junior Bridgewaters, all these other guys that have gone and taken their money and really built it. So my advice to any athlete is the first thing we want to do is we want to model out what does it look like to maintain our lifestyle throughout the rest of our life. Understanding what those numbers are, like Jason alluded to, that gives us a better understanding of what we're dealing with. If you know your numbers, now you can make smart decisions. When you don't know your numbers, then you're in the dark. So for any business, you really want to know and understand, what do the numbers look like? What do I need to be? So once you model out and understand how much it's going to take you to maintain your life, your lifestyle until you hit retirement, what the NFL has done is they put together a nice package for retirement. And if you marry that up with Social Security, you marry that up with other investments that provide uncapped income at 65 and over, then you start to put together a plan for how to make it through the rest of your life and live at a high level. And now you understand how much you can actually allocate to family, to friends, to charity, and different things like that. But again, we were born on a day, we're going to die on a day. Everything revolves around knowing and understand and managing your numbers. If you do that as a young man or as a wily, crafty veteran, you're going to put yourself in position to be successful. Simultaneously, you're going to provide some generational wealth for your family as well. Know, understand, and manage your numbers.
We talked about the transition that you all have made off the field and what that has cost you literally. I want to know now, what has been your greatest struggle as a Black man contributing to society off the field? What has been your greatest struggle, something that others may not have thought of before or can relate to?
Ooh, that's very, very tough, because there's a lot of things that I face all the time. My biggest thing is I've been told what to do and how to do it my entire life. And I'm always trying to put myself in a position where I'm cool with just walking away from any situation. And whether it's financially, relationship wise, even the people I'm around all the time. And sometimes, sometimes it's always meant like I'm being cocky or something, but it's not. I think I put myself in a position where, like I say, I got a sugar mama. She makes 3 times more than I make. So I can say, I don't want to do that. And that's where I want to make sure that I put myself in and my family in. I want to make sure that I make enough money to say, all right, I don't want to do that, and I don't have to do it. And to me, that's big. That's why I work so hard. That's why I get up and do the things that I do to make sure that I have that
power over your life.
I mean, not just power, but just have the faith that I can do it. I can say, I'm not saying it's NBC Sports Philadelphia, but if I don't want to do it, I ain't got to do it. But I'm just saying, I would never want. I love working here. That's why I'm here now. But just having that security, that I can go out, even if I didn't have the job, I could go out and make money in different type of ways. I can go out and build a car. I can go out and build a motorcycle. I can go talk to kids at schools. I want to make sure that I have that freedom to not be pigeonholed into one thing. I want to be able to say, all right, I don't want to do it. In order to do that, you got to make sure you're financially able to do it, number one, confident in yourself, number two, and have a supporting cast around you, number three, that makes and allows you to be able to do that. That's what makes it
hard for a Black man. Yeah. It's not innate.
No, exactly. So it's we have to fight just a little bit harder, especially when you're like me, 6'5", 320 pounds, was 427 pounds, but now 320 pounds, offensive lineman, I walk into a room, people are automatically, like, oh my goodness, until they know me, you know what I mean? Then they know me, they're like, all right, he's cool, but I'm always fighting uphill when it comes to those type of relationships or walking into situations.
Well, I went to school in the South, and there were unwritten rules about Black, whites, people who are different. But the only time I was called the N-word was in California. Mm. In California, where I lived, I was president of a company. And I was going across the street, Corte Madera, which is beautiful, just north of Golden Gate Bridge. And so that kind of thing smacks you in the face. But then you realize this is an individual who's trying to define you. And you kind of, I try to be thoughtful and faithful. Faith is a big part of my life. And then the other experience for me is I had a gun to my head in an armed robbery. I should not be sitting here right now. I had a guy pull a trigger on me. I was a bank branch manager. I came out, and if you know banks, they have a rail where people make loans, and then they have the tellers, and the tellers are doing their thing, and then they have back rooms where people can take breaks. I took a break and came out, and this guy had a gun. Get back, I'm a bro, and he pulled the trigger. And I didn't know, you go from being real strange and real scared, and then I chased him like a fool. But that old football thing was in me, I guess. And there's a thing called the dye pack. It went off all over the guy to cover him. I had to go through a trial. I had, a guy was masked. He had a knife on him that was going to, he was going to struggle with me. But I somehow got through that by realizing there are people who need help, who are out there, and whoever they are, they need help and assistance. And the mentality of somebody who can do that is a brutal thing. I mean, just a week ago, I'm a trustee at Mother Bethel AME. You may have heard the story, I'm sure, on Comcast or TV about somebody throwing a brick through the window of this historic Black church that has a legacy for, the first Black church in America, 1792. We have the founder's body in the basement, beautiful sepulcher and a museum, and somebody would do that. But really, and it turned out to be, I think, and I don't know the end of it, but somebody who was kind of sick, because it was not only that church that was hurt, it was other churches, Catholic church. So there are people who are out to that kind of evil. And you have to realize that and settle yourself. You have to, again, I suppose, put the mask on yourself. How are you going to handle those tough situations in life? No matter what people think, how are you going to react to it? And that's the way I try to handle my life.
Yeah, I would say, and it's kind of I would say that me being from the South Side of Chicago, Chicago in that time was very segregated. Hispanics lived in this community, Puerto Ricans over here, Dominicans on this side, Polish people on this side, Italians over here, Jewish people. That's how Chicago was back in those times. So I lived in the Black community. So I didn't know that I was dark-skinned, right? I'm a dark-skinned Black person. I didn't know. Then I moved to Decatur, Illinois. My dad would get in and out of jail, and he would like try to move me away from Chicago, and I would go live with him every now and again in Decatur. Then I realized, oh, my skin is different in comparison to everyone else. And so I began to know race by going down to Decatur, Illinois. And then I went to University of Michigan. So in order for me to get to University of Michigan, I had to go to a football camp, and I did really well at this camp. But a week before I went to University of Michigan camp, I was up north for Reeve Sorey football camp. I know you guys remember Reeve Sorey for the Bears. Reeve Sorey was up north. I couldn't afford University of Michigan's camp. So I went to this local camp. And I met this family, this guy named Mike Duda. Mike Duda was the quarterback for New Trier High School, which is like one of the better schools in Illinois and one of the best places to live, Winnetka, Illinois, one of the highest household incomes, in Illinois. And me and this guy hit it off. He's throwing passes. I'm going deep. I'm catching everything. We win MVPs together, co-MVP. His mom saw how well him and I got along. And he's like, Jason, you going to Michigan's camp next week? I'm like, dude, I want to go, but I can't really afford to go. His mom over here tells me that I'm going to call your grandmother. She comes to the south side of Chicago from Winnetka, Illinois, scared out of her mind when she got off on the Dan Ryan Expressway, 57th, right? 57 Expressway, and drove down 119th Street, got me with my grandmother's permission, takes me to the University of Michigan's football camp, pays for me 2 days in a hotel. I never had a steak dinner before or anything, right? And that day, I said to myself, I'm gonna get a scholarship in these 2 days, right? Because the camp is 7 days. I'm like, I got 2 days. That's cinch. I'm diving for balls. I ended up breaking a guy's arm in press coverage. Like I was from the bottom, and it was really, really tough, right? So they weren't prepared for the level of craziness that I was going to bring to this camp. So I ended up getting a college scholarship at the University of Michigan because of that situation. Right. And I'm unpacking all of these messages because football has granted me the opportunity to have meritocracy in life. But I realize outside of football, everyone doesn't have that same meritocracy, right? Because we don't all start in life at the same level. Football has allowed me to overcome so many different levels to get to an audience, to get to a room like this, to be considered for the master's program at the University of Michigan, or be considered to come back to the University of Michigan to be a sideline reporter. Football has done all of that because in the locker room, right, you get to intermix and mingle with other different people or different people, unlike most of America. Most of America, we go to work, we go home, it's our set group of people. No, I'm around this dude from North Dakota for 90 hours a week, and we have to talk about politics. And we have to talk about what's going on in the inner city. And I got to hear his music, and I got to understand his culture. So it's allowed me the ability to have something that I realize that most of America doesn't get the opportunity to have. So I understand that from all those experiences and in my life, when people don't know that I'm Jason Avant, I get treated totally different. Totally different. But once people realize that I played in the National Football League and, my reception is totally different. And those are things that you overcome, but also the beauty of sports and the beauty of football, you can kind of go past some levels, unlike some people that you may look like.
Sports cross all barriers, all races, all creeds, all colors. It's like the equalizer as far as when you're in that locker room, you literally don't know. You just that guy, he's bleeding for you. He's giving his all for you. You're going to do the same for him.
My biggest challenge, I think, this will probably resonate with you, is remaining relevant. I think that no matter what you do in your pedestrian life after you get off the football field, there's nothing that's going to give you the gratification of having 70, 80, 90,000 fans screaming because you did something. So it's, in life, we're looking for that relevance. So what I had to do is I had to kind of, reverse engineer how I think and find relevant in different things. Now, owning a company, doing nonprofit work, doing mentoring, those are the ways I find relevance in life. And I think that's the great struggle. And sometimes our associates or fellow former athletes, they do some ignorant things trying to remain relevant. And so I feel like if you can, kind of find that balance of what relevance looks like at my age, 52 years old, then you'll set yourself up to deal with making that transition. But that was the toughest thing that I had to deal with, was understanding that, it's not going to be like that. So I have to find new forms of gratification. And that was in, going through the process of learning business, and then finally getting to the process where I knew enough that I could start a business that could build that into a successful business, and finding relevance in that. Someone asked me, they were like, if you sold your business, what would you do? That was a question that kind of really knocked me out, because when you're playing in NFL, your deal is to build a business. Once you build a business, you get it to a point where you can sell it and build your EBITDA and get a nice multiple on that EBITDA. Now what do? Play golf? So that's one of the questions that I'm dealing with right now. When I sell my business, I'm still in my mind relatively young, or young at heart. What do you do with the rest of that time? And that's something that I'm working to find the answer to.
You're still real young, Tony. You're real young. Turned 52 this year. You're real young.
One of the greatest things in my life, and Lachelle Saluti, she helps me, and the team helps me do it, but we listen. The key to life is listening to people who may not look like you, or may not be like you, or may not have a different attitude, or maybe a critic. That's the key to life. And use that as a springboard, because it's not always pretty. One of the things that I, again, blessed to do, we fund a program at the Community College of Philadelphia, and it's called CME, Center for Male Engagement. These are people, men of color, who sit in a room like this, and we talk about politics. We talk about why give? Why did you throw trash out on your front yard? How can you respect people when you don't respect yourself? All kinds of issues. And everybody from the college president to janitors to TV people are in the room talking about how to overcome the challenges they have. But guess what? Everybody has challenges. How can we overcome those challenges? We listen. The key for me is listening. We have a tremendous group of women. We have women's leadership. We have people with disabilities, people of pride, and all the other segments. But listening, for me, overcomes those differences that you might have. And yeah, you might have to move on after a tough conversation, or as they say, you get comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And that's what you do every day. That's what we all do every day. We pass people, the real key is, how does that person on the other side of the road who's coming this way stay on that side of the road? To me, that's an awesome thing. If you think about it every day, somebody has to take responsibility to stay on that side of the road. So that's respect. So it's that somewhere in that journey, you learn respect. And life can be like 3-rail travel in your business, in your personal life, and other things that may come. And one of those rails may be going off, and you put more emphasis on that. But one of those rails may come off completely. But you're still in those other rails that you're dealing with every day.
The point of having conversations like this in front of all of you and everyone who is on teams is to cultivate a sense of understanding. Not everyone has the perspective of life that you do. And so for you to be vulnerable and honest in sharing that means everything. And I have time for one more question. And I was going to ask, what's one piece of advice that you have for an aspiring athlete? But then I thought, well, what's one piece of advice that you just have for a young Black man in America, whether he's an aspiring athlete, whether he's in the workplace? But then I thought, I only see 2 Black men in this room, and I don't know who's on teams. So now I want to know, what is your one piece of advice for people who are not Black, who are not a Black man, who have to work with someone who is? What can they do to help give them a better experience? And I thought of that question, Jason, because you mentioned how there was a woman in your life who changed your life and ultimately got you, for all we know, to the NFL when she gave you the chance to go to that camp in Michigan. And I take it she wasn't a Black woman. Or
No, I still talk to her today. Like, so yeah. So whenever I'm in Chicago, I take the kids and we go up to I always call her Mama Duda. So so her and her husband Dave and Mike and their family has always been a part of my family. And the thing is that I believe that race, socioeconomic status, anything that can be divisive is there by design, because it's harder to control a group of people that are like-minded. It's harder to control. And I believe that we have more similarities than we do have, things that are not in common, right? So, because we all bleed the same, we all want to see our kids do well. We all want to walk down the street and be safe. We all want to go to the game and have a good time and cheer on our family. We all want a little money in the bank where we're not worrying about the next paycheck or the next meal. All of us have those things in common. So I just think that experience, along with being around many different people, Black, white, green, red, brown, whatever, we all have a lot in common. And I think that that's the place that I think that we need to look at each other from. I think that's where it starts. It's our viewpoint. If we just take in one-sided things, if we take Fox News this way, if we take MSNBC, if we take their way, if we take CNN's way, like, we have to look at things from the perspective from a unbiased, no presuppositions that way, and gain information that way, and not paint with a broad brush. If we can look at each other with favor. I always say this, is that, have you ever noticed that some people that come in your life, you favor them more? The girl that you dated in high school, you liked her a little bit more than you liked everybody else. So what that meant was, even if she had a mistake or something that was wrong, because she was your favorite, you overlooked it. And I believe that we should look at people in our lives with favor, right? That we're not looking to make them a bad person, that we're looking with favor, that we're not trying to demean, belittle, that they made a mistake, or that doesn't make them who that person is, but we look at people more favorably. And I think that's the way I can answer that question.
Great piece of advice. Do any of you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, again, the passion of, and let me do one thing. Let me thank everyone in this room and on the internet. They're allies in this room. They don't have to be Black, white, women, men. You are allies in this journey. You are allies to help people, whatever color they are, whatever background. You are allies. So thank you for being here and being present. That's another one of the principles. Be present in whatever you're doing. You can save a life by being present, by the way. I got many stories about that, but one of the things, and the Parks team knows that I'm passionate about one thing: don't quit, don't quit. My mother, who was dying, would have this poem, and she was dying. She had diabetes, the foot goes, the leg goes, and the person goes. So in her last operation, she recited it, and tears came down my eyes that I'll never have again, I guess. She said, when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're traveling is all uphill, when funds are low and debts are high, and you want to smile and you just sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but don't you quit. Life is filled with twists and turns, and though some of us sometimes learn that many a problem turns about, and he might have won had he stuck it out. Don't give up the fight, though the pace seems slow. You might succeed with another blow. Success is failure turned inside out, the silver clouds in a tent of doubt. And you never know how close you are. It might be so near, but seems so far. So stick with the fight when your heart is hit. It's when things seem worse, you must not quit.
Stop that, Barrett. No.
Ain't gonna lie, I was just gonna say, hey, I'm always gonna have a smile on my face, and when I'm around everybody, how can I? All I was gonna say, hey, the same people you see going up are the same people you may see going down, and y'all just know that I was a good enough person that if you see me falling down, reach out and grab me, and everybody should have that type of meaning in their life. You see me going up. Let's go up together. Reach as I climb. I'm gonna go up with you. I'm gonna make sure that you can feel that Barrett Brooks. Somebody say Barrett Brooks. I want all you guys to say, man, that's a good dude. So when I'm going up, if you ever see me going down, just reach your arm out, grab me. Saying, don't let me go all the way down. Saying, and if everybody lived that way, it'd be a wonderful place to live.
I have to lift a couple weights to.
There you go.
Hold on, but you got it. Tony, how about you? Any advice that you can share for someone who has to work amongst a Black man? What can they do to help make his experience a little bit easier?
I think that we as Black men can do what we expect other people to do, and that's just treat people how you want to be treated. And when we were going through all the COVID and the different political upheavals, and I had to address my team, and we were doing that virtually, basically via Teams and Zoom calls and different things like that. The one thing I just kept reminding them is, hey guys, for as much as we're different, like Jason said, we're the same. And for Ron said, hey, just listen. And the only thing I would add to that is, again, if you take nothing else, just when you're dealing with somebody that's from a different background, a different race, a different culture, just treat them how you want to be treated. And if we do that, we're going to be all right.
We'll be all right. Thank you so much. Yes. Gentlemen, thank you so much again for sharing your stories with us, your insight with us. We're now going to open up for some questions from our audience. If anyone here has a question for our panelists. Yeah, we see 2 questions. We got time for 2 questions? Okay, so there's one in the chat that we're going to ask first. This is from Marvin P. He said, hearing your stories, a running theme is the desire to meet challenges and seek new ones. How did you cultivate that desire for challenges? And conversely, what in your life do you feel content or settled about, if ever?
Mantra, whatever I do, I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability, so I mean, if I'm out there giving it my best, if I do fall short, I gave everything I had at what I was doing. So and usually when I do that, things go very, very well for me.
And for me, I am hungry about the things I'm passionate about. I will give time, I will give money, I will give whatever. Find something you're hungry for, whatever it is, something positive, hopefully. But find that hunger within you to go to whatever next level you need to.
I would say that as life is about mental growth as well, and I do that through reading, through scripture, through so meeting challenges is something that's always preached in football. It's something that we're prepared for every year. There's every coach that we've ever had will always tell you there's like, this is our team. Here's the outside forces. This is the news media. This is social media. This person. They're going to try to break us apart with this and this and this. But your role is here. So you always are trained about like challenges. And and as an athlete, you view challenges as something that will come, that it's going to happen. It's for sure. It's not something that's a what if. It's going to happen. The coach tells you, we're going to draw this play up and we want it to work like this. But in the game, somebody's going to have to make an extraordinary effort in order for this to work. And it's usually like that. It's usually a guy hanging off some person and then he throws for a touchdown. When they drew it up in practice, the guy was clean. He was standing straight up. He didn't have to dive for it. It went right to his chest. But a guy goes up, and that was a part of the challenge. So in life, I would just say expect challenges and train your mind to not give up and to anticipate those challenges.
I'm in the second half, third quarter. So for me, it's all about legacy. What am I leaving behind?
I'm still in the first half, Tony.
You're a little younger than me now.
I was just messing with you.
How you guys doing? I'm Khalil. I honestly just wanted to know how y'all experiences as Black men from humble beginnings and as pro athletes, those lessons that you guys learned and experienced, how did that help transition to successful entrepreneurship?
I would say that the work that you put in, a lot of people think it's just your talent. It's a lot of work that you put in. I would get up every day at 5:30 to be in a place like spiritually in order to be prepared for all the challenges that I would get, to be yelled at, to be dog cursed for, stepping on the line, whatever it may be. And you put in all of that time, that effort, that energy. Coach Reed would always preach about like the gray area. He wanted to coach in a manner that it was black and white. You knew exactly what you would do on every situation of every play. That's how it was. And he always talked about eliminating that gray area so guys can play faster. If you don't have to think, you can play faster. And I think that process kind of helped me when it came to business, especially running a trampoline park that does trampoline parks that did arcades. We did our own arcades. We had laser tag and birthday parties, corporate events, had a full cafe. Some had bars, a bunch of different crazy things that were going on. And I figured that based on what I knew with football is that I had to eliminate the gray area so everybody else can play faster, right? That concept came from me being on the football field, and the work ethic is pretty self-explanatory. So I think those kind of things helped me out in business. Somebody else could, probably speak to it better than I could.
In my concept and my blessing, it was a blessing from God, the team concept. Anything you do needs a team to accomplish if you want, and bring others with you. In my life, and my lovely wife wrote a book, Tragic Victory, about my life and her life and going through some pain with our kids, opioids and suicide. That's reality in my life. So I'm able, not only with teams, but also with the reality of trying to help others through the pain that I went through. So transferring whatever the pain you're going through, help somebody else. Try to help someone else through it. We do speeches, lectures, and all the other things with people who have gone through that pain. So
very simple for me. It's the numbers. Understand, manage your numbers. It'll help you transition into business. When you look at M&A guys, when you look at tech guys, when you look at anybody in any different vertical industry, business, or sector, if they know, understand, and manage their numbers, when they come in, what's the first thing they say? Give me your P&L and your balance sheet. What's your AR? What's your AP? What's your EBITDA look like? Here's the multiple on that. So in business, you said making that transition or advice that you give the business, know, understand, and manage your numbers. If you do that, you'll be successful. We've even seen it go to football. It's all about analytics. What's the probability of converting on fourth down? You got to know those numbers as you're making decisions. But again, that goes across every different aspect of our life. Know, understand, and manage your numbers. It puts you in a position to be successful.
I'm going to follow up real quick with something that came yesterday. I'm a member of an organization called the Conference Board, and they had a session yesterday on what keeps the CEO up at night, which is, insight. I'm going, wow, I had to listen to it. And one of the biggest principles that affects us all is unpredictability. That means you have to be armed individually, knowing yourself, but the word unpredictable. Global markets, unpredictable. Politics, unpredictable. Everything is unpredictable. So you have to arm yourself with things that will help you through those unpredictable challenges. Just wanted to put that in.
Thing is that I understand that there are challenges that people of color go through, right? When it comes to walking into a bank to get a home loan or what issue there may be. I would say this is that recognize, don't ever be blind to, but don't use it as a reason why I should stop. Like, you can recognize institutional racism in the past and redlining. You can recognize all slavery. You can recognize all of those things and esteem them and learn from history, because that's what the message is for us to learn. But at no point can we stop and say, this is the reason why I can't. There's always a reason why you can. And like he said earlier, like Ron said earlier, it's just not quitting. And so to recognize something but not use it as an excuse of why you can't move forward beyond it, I think that's the key in order for any person to overcome whatever challenge it may be.
You just got to outwork it. You never let anybody outwork you. You never let anybody just, tell you can't do something. There's nothing I can't accomplish. I said the only thing I can accomplish is have a baby. I can make the baby, I can't have the baby. But anything else I can do, So I've never let anybody or anything stop me from doing what I need to do. When I was playing, I know I would get up at 3 o'clock sometimes, but like nobody in my hemisphere that's training will get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go run 2 miles. So I get up and go run 2 miles, knowing I'm preparing for whatever adversity I was going to face that day, or be able to go in and not just adversity, but just, everything in life, so just outwork everybody, outwork everything.
And this kind of goes hand on hand with that. So thank you so much, Ben. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm actually one of the co-leaders for Young Professionals Network, and I'm on my second year here. So I'm still in the newer, the rookie contract, I would say, here. I kind of want to talk a little bit about a moment in your life that, helped you take off from that rookie perspective. Because when you're new, you're blending in, you're just trying to get used to the culture, trying to become a part of it. But then there's that one moment, whether it's a first sale for me, for example, where it takes you off. And all of a sudden you're like, I love this. I want to keep going. I'd love to hear a little bit about, a moment in your life that you think you felt that way.
For me, I think it's somebody believes in you. You realize that someone who might not know you believes in you. I've been at Parks. I was the first person hired at Parks. We've hired since that time roughly 2,800 people. And the day that I went in and, somebody said, we were doing a presentation. I report to the state. I report all our metrics, and I report everything that we do. We do outreach, we do in-reach, we do all kinds of things. But the day they said, Ron Davis is our guy, that was, like, again, one of those magical moments, like a signing, signing an autograph. That, to me, somebody believed in me.
I would just say that I remember my second year, my first year I got hurt. And so I was never like the same. I lost a lot of cartilage out of my knee, so I had to run higher in order to continue to play in the NFL. Right? I couldn't get low on my routes anymore because I lost cartilage in my knee, and that was the part where you kind of bend down into it. And I remember the first game we were playing Green Bay, and this is back in the day. I was a slot receiver back in the day where your best player went to the slot. And at that time, Green Bay had Charles Woodson. Tony knows how Charles Woodson is as far as Michigan, just legendary. Everything that we think about is what Charles Woodson did. And I'm like, dude, Charles Woodson's going to be guarding me tomorrow, right? And I've seen all of his tape, and I'm like, dude, how am I going to get open on Charles Woodson? And first third down comes out. I'm up all night. I couldn't go to sleep. I'm like, dude, I'm going against, one of the guys that inspired me. So, and I had double dig lock. Coach Reed still runs the same plays today. I had double dig lock. It's 14-yard in route, and lock means that it's coming to me no matter what. It was a third down. And I go across the field, and I stop, and he falls down. I made Charles Woodson fall down. He falls down, and I catch a 40-yard gain. From that point on, you couldn't tell me anything. From that point on, I felt like nobody in the world could guard me at all. And then, so that, to me, that was my moment where it's like, hey, if I can do this in this situation against a person that I view as one of the best corners to ever live, and I can make him fall down, I can make anybody fall down. So that's just the way I played and the way that I thought about it. So when the coach dude, can you get open on Del Root? Yeah. Well, he locked down T.O. He locked down Randy Moss. I'm like, man, he's nothing to me. That's just the way you think about it. So I believe that those little small battles can kind of propel you forward.
Mine was a little different. Wasn't necessarily as positive. It was the day that they told me, 11 years in, hey, come and see the coach and bring your playbook with you. And the reason why, that means you get cut, if anybody doesn't know that. And, at some point in time, you know it's going to come because the average lifespan is 3.5 years. Why is that? Because benefits start at 4, so they try to get you off the books of an NFL player. But for me, why that was kind of the it moment for me is because I felt like if I can make it through 11 years in NFL, anything else is going to be easy compared to that. And that's the approach I've taken in business, and I've applied that. And you know what? Having the middle mindset, what you put your body through, and how you train your mind in business doesn't compare to what you did in the NFL. So I know I can always outwork the next guy in my position and really have an opportunity to be successful.
I guess it was my aha moment was when they called my name when I was drafted. I was slotted to go in the first, late in the first or in the second round. So I get drafted in the second round. But I thought I was going to get drafted in the first. Kansas City calls me and tells me, hey, we're about to draft you. And then, boom, they draft this guy. This guy from Michigan. They draft this guy from Michigan. Trezell Jenkins. Never played a snap in the NFL. And they drafted him in the first round of 7.
Big Tree. I know Tree.
See? So, so I'm getting mad. I go upstairs. First of all, I was going to go to, back then they used to send us to New York. And if you were a first rounder, you were going to go to New York and they call you, go up there, take your hat and everything. Some told me, don't go to New York. So I didn't go to New York. I stayed in St. Louis. We went to went to a hotel. We rented the bar downstairs. It was going to be a big party and everything. I had a suite upstairs. So I didn't get drafted in the first round. So like 3/4 of the way through the first round, I said, you know what, I'm going upstairs. I went to sleep. So I thought, I'm going upstairs. So I went down, I went to sleep. And as soon as the phone rang, and it was Ray Rhodes, he initially just starts cussing me out. I'm like, yo, this is my aha moment. Ray Rhodes cussing me out, telling me I gotta go to Philadelphia and get drafted by the Eagles. That was my aha moment. Like, yo, I have arrived. I am somebody now. I'm about to make this happen. From that point on, can't nobody tell me nothing. If I can make it in Ray Rhodes' camp, I can make it in anything. So that was my aha moment. Since then, doesn't matter. Doug yells at me. Rick yells at me. It doesn't matter. I already had that aha moment.
Real quick, my football moment was playing against Bob Brown. And you have to go back in the 70s when Bob Brown, they would do these, and he played for the Eagles, and then he went to the Raiders, and he was so big. They say John Facenda would say he eclipsed the sun. That's how. So you're a rookie or a first-year player, and you got to play against this guy, and he in the huddle, you turn it all in. Well, he's looking at you, and you're down the line. And he's looking at you instead of listening to the quarterback. And then he rocks down, and he rocks down to get in his position, and then they let him wear metal underneath the play. Oh. They let him wear metal so he would hit you in the ribs, hit you in the head. He had like 4 or 5 different sets, but it was all legal at that time. But Bob Brown, I got through it, but I'm trying to do the head slap, right? So I'm trying to do head slap, but I'm not looking at his face because he was gruesome looking guy. So I'm doing a head slap, not look, because I was scared. I was scared. Yeah.
Play against Mr. White. Oof. You guys call him Reggie, but I call him Mr. White. Yeah, Mr. Reggie White.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Let's give them some more applause. We definitely hope you enjoyed this event. I want to personally thank Aunyea, Barrett, Ron, Jason, my man Tony, all the way out there for coming out, giving us time, to everyone here that came in today, our wonderful team, because really it takes a team to put this together. It's almost like a football team. It took a lot of hands, a lot of minds, a lot of timing, a lot of people putting this together. So, I want to thank Parks Casino, the NBC 10 News team, the NBC Creative Service team, the sales and marketing team, Paula and your team, everybody that's out there on Teams, that's on YouTube, everyone. We just want to thank you for coming out and giving your time and hearing this wonderful panel. I'm going to pass it to my co-lead, Keisha for some final thoughts.
Not final thoughts. But on behalf of Ben Philly, we just want to thank you for celebrating Black Heritage Month with us. As we all know, Black Heritage is not something we just celebrate for the month. We can celebrate it year round. We've heard the stories from these great panelists, so we want to thank them for that. Ben's theme this year was the power of storytelling. So what we heard today were a lot of powerful stories. One of the biggest ones being these men are not just the numbers on their back and the teams on their chest, just as we're not our job titles and our organizations. We're all people. And part of Ben, part of the ERG network is to bridge the gap. So we just want to thank you all for coming out and joining us. And it's actually a perfect segue as we bridge the gap into Women's History Month and prepare ourselves to celebrate women of all backgrounds. So thank you for this final celebration of Black Heritage Month. But let's celebrate all year long.